She's she's very good in reminding me for that. So thank you, Guat Ching. Just being here reminds me to record the session. Everyone, welcome to this session on the outcome conversation. It is a pleasure and honor for me to be with you this evening. I hope that during this session, you can gain something that is useful for yourself. And before I continue, I love doing this whenever we start the program, just to get everybody to be a little bit more familiar with the people in this room. I like to invite you just to say your name and where you are calling from. In that way, we get a little bit more familiar with the people in this room. Okay, so I'll call out first to Bella. Bella, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, nice to see you all. My name is Bella, I'm from KL.
Thank you, Bella. And over to you, Bill.
Hello everyone, I see some familiar faces. My name is Bill, I'm from Vietnam.
Thank you, Bill. And over to you, Guat Ching.
Hello, I'm Guat Ching. I'm from PJ.
Thank you, Guat Ching. And Roy, I hope that I don't catch you with your mouth full. Roy, if you are ready to go ahead.
Okay. Hi everyone. Good evening. I'm Roy Tan. I'm calling in from Selangor, PJ.
Thank you, Roy. And over to you, Isaac.
Hi, salam, and good evening, everyone. I'm from Langkawi. See the sunset at the back there?
Oh, wow.
Actually, I'm attached to Resorts World Langkawi.
So every day is resort day for you.
Well, every day.
Yeah, every day. Wow. That's good. So Hashim, go ahead.
I'm Hashim, calling in from Klang.
Thank you, Hashim. And over to you, Dr. Anwar.
Assalamualaikum. Good evening. I'm Anwar. I live in Shalam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mazuki, can you speak a bit louder?
Oh dear. Let me just see. Okay. Checking again. Have you got the volume?
It's higher, I think.
Is it
a bit
better?
higher? Boleh tak? Oh, unless I'm having it with my gadgets.
So just checking the volume again. Everyone, are you hearing me clear? Thumb up, thumb down. Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Guat Ching. And last but not least, Sue, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sue, calling from Bukit Ramaputra.
Bukit Ramaputra. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this evening. This evening, we move into the coaching session. What I do is that in these sessions, I'm having these meetings every week. The first week of the month, our session is on the Neuro-Semantics series. Currently, I'm focusing on the Neuro-Semantics of leadership. In the second week of the month, the topic shifts to relationships. So we are in the third week of third Thursday of the month. So we are discussing on meta coaching. So a little bit niche, a little bit more specialized. And the fourth week of the month, we shift gears, go into parenting. So those are the topics that we cover every week of the month, 4 weeks of the month. So those are what we cover in the sessions that we have every week. That's right. So for this week, we are discussing on the outcome conversation. And as I mentioned to you in the write-up about this session, the topics for these sessions comes from Michael Hall's book on coaching conversations. So the first 10 chapters of the book, it's about the structure of the conversations. Now going into the next 12 chapters of the book, this is now chapter 11. We are going into the specific conversation. So we start off with the outcome conversation. And what we'll be doing this week is we'll be discussing on what does it mean to coach someone towards his or her dream. How is a coaching conversation about desired outcomes able to co-create with the client a new destiny? What are the prerequisites for a powerful and transformative outcome conversation? How can we ensure that talking about desired outcomes translate into life actions? And what's the difference between an outcome conversation and merely talking about positive thinking? So those are the areas that we'll be discussing. Okay. So before I continue on, let me welcome the new people who have joined us. Ines, it's a pleasure for us to have you. Can you just introduce yourself by just saying your name and where you're calling from?
Hi, Mazuki. Good morning for everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. It's so good. I think I have problems with my camera, so I'm trying to fix it. Well, my name is Inês Yoneyama. I live in Brazil. I'm from Brazil. And well, I am studying meta coaching and training in neurosemantics as Mazuki is. So Mazuki is kind of my model to be modeled. And then, well, this is my first time with you. And well, it's a big, big pleasure to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ines. It's a pleasure that you are joining us all the way from Brazil. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Izani, if you can introduce yourself, your name and where you are calling us from.
Hi. You see me?
Yes, I can see and I can hear you.
Okay, my name is Izani. I'm calling from Shah Alam. Now I'm
Yes.
living in Shah Alam already. Moved from Brunei and from home because must lockdown. I stay at home. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Izani. And Ines, now I can see you.
Oh, it's morning here. I just woke up, so sorry for anything here not that good. Thank
the
you.
effort that you put in to be together with us. Right. Okay, and also I'd like to welcome Mark. Mark, can you just introduce yourself?
Hi, Mr. Mazuki. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark. I'm from Klang, Malaysia. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Mark. Pleasure that you're all here. This evening, we are discussing on the topic, the outcome conversation. This is the chapter 11 in Michael's book, Coaching Conversations. So from chapter 11 to chapter 21, Michael covers the specific conversations. Each are distinct and unique conversations that we have with our clients, right? So first of all, moving into the theoretical framework of the outcome conversation, just checking with all of you, how many of you are familiar with NLP's score model? If you are familiar, just use the what do we call this? The reaction one. Yeah, just put a thumbs up if you're familiar with the score model. Let me see. Okay. So watching, right? Okay, few of you. And for those of you who did not put your thumbs up, probably you've forgotten it already. Okay, so basically the outcome conversation is based on the score model. So before I continue, Dr. Shakir, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Shakir is a master developmental coach, so I really appreciate your being here to contribute to our meeting. Thank you, Dr. Shakir, for being here. Now,
Thank you.
just covering the theoretical framework of the outcome conversation. Firstly, coaching conversations deal with outcomes. Precisely because clients sign up for coaching because they want something, they want results, they want to achieve a certain outcome. So a coaching conversation deals with outcomes. Clients want something new, something different, or something more. People come for coaching because they want to change things. They want to transform things, to make things different. They want a better quality of life. They want more fulfillment. They want more balance in their life. They want to accomplish their dreams. And especially for a swimming coach like Mark, your students see you because they want to swim faster, right, Mark? They want to win medals. They do not want to stay where they are. They will have something they want to achieve.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's about outcomes. All of these are future outcomes. They don't have it yet. So this is where they are right now. It is all about the future. So all of them look forward to, so the conversations look forward to the client's future timeline and invite a coaching conversation about the outcomes, goals, hopes, dreams, and also the resources of getting there. Actually, the success or failure of a coaching conversation or coaching partnership rests on the outcome conversation. The first conversation at the beginning of the coaching process unleashes a natural spring of self-motivation and passion. If either the coach or the client are not clear about the outcome, then it is almost impossible for both of them to get there. So in the role of both awakener and challenger, the coach awakens and challenges the clients towards the goal. The coach pushes the client away from where he or she is currently and pulls the client into a compelling future. This outcome conversation sets frames that contracts with the client as to what the coaching is about, how to evaluate its effectiveness, and what to celebrate when the coaching comes to an end. So a coaching conversation is in, I would say as an overview, it is an outcome conversation. A client comes to see me. The first conversation is what is the outcome that they want to achieve over the period of the coaching relationship. And then in each of the coaching sessions, the client comes with specific outcomes for each. So the conversation is about helping the client achieve the short-term outcomes in each of the conversations that is in service of the long-term outcome that they have created for themselves. So that's basically the theoretical framework to the outcome conversation. I'll pause there to allow anyone to ask question or comment, add some comments to it. So go ahead and unmute yourself if you would like to do so. So that's just the introduction, quick introduction. Okay, so everyone okay with that? Yes, Rob.
Marzuki, I have a question. So you know, in meta coaching, we have the 7 types of coaching conversation, right? How do we differentiate the outcome conversation and the 7 different types of conversation, like the clarity conversation, the decision conversation? How do we, so is there a difference between this outcome conversation, or is it like an umbrella? And within that outcome conversation, we have a clarity conversation, we have a decision or a planning conversation. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Roy. So in coaching conversations, the book Coaching Conversations, Michael listed 11, 12 conversations altogether, and outcome conversation is one of them. Clarity conversation is another. So those are the different types of conversation that a coach and client engages when they are having the conversation. Does that answer the question? So from the book itself, there are 12 types of conversations. Yes, during ACMC, we focus on about, you mentioned 7, so it must be about 7 conversations that we focus on. Is that okay with you, Roy?
Got it. Thanks, Masuki.
Thank you, Roy. Ines, you were about to say something just now?
Not exactly what I was thinking. Trying to see if I have any questions for now, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ines. So let's go into the outcome conversation. In the outcome conversation, I mentioned to you the SCORE model. So in the SCORE model, we are talking about the current state. The current state basically refers to where you are now. Okay, let me just do a little bit of change over here. It is not outcome conversation. It should be outcome question. So we are going to go into the outcome questions. So let me just do a little bit of change over here. Sorry about this. Oh, it doesn't change here. Never mind. So it should be the outcome question. So when we talk about the outcome question here, we are talking about the current state, where you are now. What we are moving the client is to the desired state, where they want to be. So for example, where I am now is that I'm not getting many clients for my business. So where I want to be is that I have 100,000 clients for my business, that kind of thing. So Mark, you have a student who comes to you and say, I don't know how to swim, and where do you see yourself in 5 years time? I win the Olympics in 5 years time. Will you be able to do that, Mark? So the current state is where they are now. The desired state is where they want to be. And what we do in the conversation is we bring them from where they are to where they want to be. And the other conversation that we have with the client is the resource conversation, to identify what it takes to get there, to move them from the current state to the desired state. So the outcome questions, sorry, it's not outcome conversation, the outcome questions that we can bring, these are examples of outcome questions that we can bring, are questions like, where are you now? So to get them to anchor them into where they are now. So where are you now? How do you find this unpleasant or undesirable? They are not happy with where they are now. So that's why they want to be in another place, in another state, in another outcome. So how is this unpleasant to you? What kind of problems is it causing you? What does it do to you or in you, this current state? And how much aversion or stress does this create for you? Because the amount of stress or aversion will also create part of the push-pull energy to get the client to move from the current state to the desired state. When it comes to the desired state, the question that we ask is, where do you want to go? And typically, coaches, we start off the conversation with, what do you want? What is it that you want? So where do you want to go? So this is where they begin to define what they want to achieve. When you get there, what does that do for you? So what it is that you want to achieve, when you achieve that, how does that affect you? And also, what does it look like, sound like, or feel like? That question grounds them to the experience that they want to achieve. So the moment it grounds them, then we are stimulating all of the see, hear, feel senses, and then that will stimulate the energy of emotion of wanting to achieve that. So from the current state, in the current state, what happened is that we are creating an aversion at the current state. So that is where they do not want to be. And in the desired state, we are creating a pull. So there's the push-pull factor coming in the moment we do that. Okay. Then other questions that come in with the outcome questions are, this relates to the resource conversation. So how can you get there? What, if anything, stops you or might stop you? So this question gets them to, it is not just positive thinking, everything is so nice and sunny. So now we are bringing them into reality. If there is anything that's stopping them, is there anything that's interfering? So bringing in that awareness to what's stopping them from going there. What resources do you need to move to your preferred destination? And typically in meta coaching, we are looking at the internal resources. What skills, strategies do they need to learn? Do they need to take for themselves in order to move there, in order to move towards their outcome? Do you know what to do to begin the process? Now we are moving into the strategies. What's going to be the first step, and what's the next step? Yeah, what's the first step, the second, and the ones after that? So if we don't have this resource conversation, then they have just this nice idea of what they want to achieve, and they'll not be able to bring themselves to that outcome that they want. And another question that we can use is, do you know anyone who has achieved this outcome? So in this way, inviting the resources around them. The whole, I would say, objective of coaching towards a person's outcome is to get them to take responsibility for themselves so that they can begin moving towards that. So having somebody as a mentor that they can learn from in order to help them towards moving towards their outcome is a plus point. So these are the outcome questions, and not conversation yet. The outcome questions that we ask the client in this outcome conversation that we are having with the client. Okay, so I'm going to pause there and invite any questions or comments. Go ahead. So those are the outcome questions. Example of outcome questions. There are many more nuances. However, those outcome questions are based upon where they are at, where they want to be, and how they are going to get there.
Basically, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Basically, what if this goal or the thing that the person want to achieve is something it's not very common that people do. I don't know, like going to the North Pole or something like that, or South Pole, right? It's not something like our friends or our neighbors do every day. Then somebody says, "Oh, I want to do this," and then how do you say, yeah, it could be a bit challenging. I don't know. But if you ask, like, do you know anybody? Yeah, there are people somewhere that not that I know of. Resources, yeah, good to find out.
Yeah, so this is where, as the coach, you need to bring in the meta program of matching and mismatching in order for you to challenge them. So this is what you want. Do you know people who have done that? So part of the creation and implementation, remember that the axis of creation is to go into the detailed planning. So if somebody says, I want to go to the North Pole, asking that question, do you know anybody who has done that? Because that's where the modeling needs to come in. And when we talk about modeling, we need to go into the meta detailing. Yeah, we need to go into meta detailing. Because without those meta details, the person is planning to fail. So as a coach, we want to get them to go into that detail. Hi, my friend.
Hi, Marzuki.
Hi. Good to see you. So you woke up as well.
Just woke up.
He doesn't want to show up because of his hair is like that.
Don't worry. Thank you. Dr. Anwar, does that answer your question? Yeah, remember
Yeah, I got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Remember that as a coach, you are not the mentor. You are not the expert. Our expertise is in asking questions. And asking questions are important because sometimes people, I mentioned to you, people who are global, they think about the large goals that they want to have. However, without the meta detailing, they are going to fail. So as the coach, to be able to ask them the question, so what's the first step? What's the next step? And what's the next step? So for a goal such as let's say going to the North Pole, so the implementation plan, the logistical and physical implementation plan, you need to task the client. Okay, so when we meet the next time, bring to me what's your implementation and training plan that you're going to get. Yeah, that part is not going to happen during the coaching conversation, but you need to task them to do that by themselves. Yeah. So it's about giving them the power to act. This is what we refer to as empowerment. We let them use their own power to achieve their goal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anwar. Yes, anyone else would like to add anything? Dr. Shakir, would you like to add anything?
Yes, it's very interesting. And there is a flow in coaching. You put it into CRS, I mean current, resource, and desired state. It's whereby a person who needs coach's help, it means that sometimes they have the resources, they have all the capability, they have the minimum amount for them to be successful. And sometimes they overwhelm certain things whereby the coach can help them by asking the question, because the main purpose of the question is first is to find out more information, to elicit. Secondly, try bring them into the right states Sometimes they are in the wrong state, right? They jump in from one to another, they can get confused and whatnot. And number two, those who already make a decision to meet the coach, mean to say that they have answered all the big 5 why, what, when, and how. So they have made that decision. So the main objective for them is to clearly, through the coach help, to properly crystal clear of their objective or their set of goal or the outcomes they want to get from the coach. So when they're clear of that, it's so easy for the coach to help them on their journey to achieve their goal. Since the meta coach and meta question are very helpful because they understand the states of the coachee right in front of them. Now they know where this guy is having the issue. Sometimes it is not a problem. Sometimes it's not an issue. It's it is the state of the person. Sometimes the question helping someone to craft certain thing in a better way through the right question being asked by the coach. So in this case, the coach is a person listen to the client and trying to give the right way of asking the question and allow him to think from himself, the ability to find the best route to achieve certain goal or the best path with the least resistance. I'm interested all the question being said, the 4 wives and 1 husband, because if the client can fully understand what being asked by the coach, then you are on your journey to be successful. And secondly, if the goal, the outcome is clearly defined at the early stage, then it makes the journey become more easier because the step is already provided by the meta coach. So it's a matter of how you craft the question in such a way. The question, when they say powerful question, the question is simple. Doesn't mean it's complicated question. So the questions are so simple that before answering the question, sometimes the client can feel, I got the answer already. So you're the coach helping them in a aha position without going further. So that's roughly for me to share. Marzuki, maybe, I do not know, is it okay or not? I'm trying to share something.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Okay, so the structure, Dr. Shakir mentioned about the structure. Just now, I gave you examples of questions that we use in order to get the client to be aware of where they are going. So let's take a look at the structure, because once we as the coach know the structure, the client can come in from any position. Once we know the structure, we can bring them to clarity, we can bring them to the outcome that they want to achieve. So let's take a look at the structure of the well-formed outcome. The first point is positively stated. Positively stated here refers to the outcome that they want to achieve. We want the client to state, when we talk about positively stated, state what you want rather than what you do not want. So when we ask the client, so what is it that they want? Depending on their meta program, those running the towards meta program, they'll state what they want. However, the person who's running the away from meta program, they'll say what they don't want. So the first criteria for a well-formed outcome is they are able to verbalize succinctly what it is that they want, to be able to represent what you, the client, will be doing and thinking when you reach your goal. So positively stated also means that you are able to create a movie in your mind of life beyond the challenge of problems. So this is where you are now. This is a challenge and problem that you're facing. Positively stated means that you're able to go here, to be able to see, hear, feel how life is when you achieve your goal. So that's the first part to the structure of the well-formed outcome. The second part is empirical, to be able to state in sensory-based terms in the here and now, so that your internal movie will be close and immediate. So this is where we need to benchmark the specifics of the empirical see, hear, feel actions and behaviors that can videotape. So empirical here refers to asking the client, so when you achieve that, what is it that you see, hear, feel? Getting them to be able to describe that. So this first and second point, positively stated and empirical, allows the client to be able to be more specific and to be able to clarify what it is that they want. So that's the second point of the structure of the well-formed outcome. And just a little bit, I would say a step back over here. The reason why we want to have this well-formed outcome is that many people don't achieve their goals not because they are there's something wrong with them. For many people, the reason why they don't achieve their goal is because they have ill-formed goals. The goals are not well-formed. If the goals are not well-formed, there is no way that you can get there because you are confusing yourself. Just like, I don't know, any one of you read, what's that? Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland, she came to a crossroad, and she asked I think it was the Cheshire cat there, which path should I take? And then the cat asked her, where do you want to go? I don't know. And then the cat said to her, well, if you don't know where you want to go, then both paths will get you to somewhere. But the thing is that where, I don't know. So that is why we are talking about the well-formed outcome, because once the client has the outcome well-formed, then we are able to help them to get that. So the first one is positively stated. The second is empirical. The third point is that specific contexts. To get the client to describe the context of the outcome, when, where, with whom, how often they want to achieve that. In what context or context do you want to achieve this goal? Yeah, sometimes you have people, you ask them, what is it that you want? I want to feel happy. Okay, you want to feel happy when, where? I want to feel happy all the time. Is it possible for you to feel happy all the time? There are times that it is not appropriate for you to feel happy. Yeah. For example, this morning I received news that my wife's brother passed away. So this morning, it's not appropriate for me to feel happy. It's more relevant for me to feel that sadness and allowing myself to feel sad this morning, allowing that. So what context do you want to achieve that goal? So that's why the third point there is specify the context you want to achieve that goal. Okay. Next one are the action steps. To be able to represent the outcome in terms of processes, the specific steps and stages, including the behaviors which will move you to achieve your goal. So in this particular part, use verbs rather than nouns and nominalizations to map out the action steps. And for those of you who have long-term goals to achieve and especially goals that are more involved, more complex. You might even want to task the client to draw out a PERT chart and have a Gantt chart of all of the activities, what activities come after another to get that project management thing. So this is what the action steps are all about. And these are critical because if you don't bridge the gap between where you are now with where you want to go with the action steps, then it is just wishful thinking. So this is where being able to moving to this step. This is where, as a coach, you need to notice the meta program that your client is running, the meta program of scale. If you have a client who is operating at the global meta program, then it will be a challenge for them to specify the specific steps. And yet, if you don't get them to specify the action steps, you are helping them to fail in that sense. So to be able to do that. So that's the fourth step in the structure of the well-formed outcome. The fifth one is person-centered. Person-centered here refers to describe the processes and behaviors that are within your own control. The locus of control is you, that you, the person going for the goal, that you can initiate and maintain the specific action steps. This puts the goal within your zone of control. Otherwise, if you put out a goal that involves other parties to make it happen, then that's when you are also setting yourself up to failure. Yeah. So to be able to where is that coming from? Sorry. Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Okay. So not putting out a goal that requires other forces for the achievement of goal is going to doom you to failure. So to be able to identify the aspect of the goal that will that you can control, that is within your power zone. So this is what we are referring to person-centered. So asking the question, is this within your power? Yeah. Taking the example of the COVID situation right now. So if a person, an individual like me, to set out a goal, okay, my goal is to eliminate COVID altogether. Now, asking the question, is that within your power? No, because other people are involved. I am not responsible and I have no power for all of the others. So all that I can do is to set a goal of me being responsible in my behaviors, not to expose myself to the virus and not to expose others. So going into the behaviors that I can control. So this is what we are referring to person-centered. Step number 6 is resources. To describe the resources you will need to achieve your outcome and how you will specifically experience those resources. Some of the resources you already have, like Dr. Shakir mentioned just now. So it's about strategizing them. Some of the resources you don't yet have. Maybe these are additional skills or strategies. So asking the question, so how are you going to get those, to be able to bring those resources in order that you can use those resources in achieving the goal. Next one is evidence, procedure, or benchmark. And this is an interesting one, is that when you achieve your goal, how will you know that you have achieved your goal. Because without the evidence procedure, that's why some people, they set out a goal and they keep on doing and doing. They don't know whether they've achieved their goal or not. So what evidence procedure will let you know when you achieve your outcome? What will inform you that you have succeeded? What benchmarks will you set to measure success? So these are setting up KPIs and setting up the end target, because once you reach that, you know that the goal has been achieved. So once you have achieved your goal, you can celebrate and set a new goal. However, if you don't set the evidence procedure, asking the question, how will you know when you get your goal? If you don't set the evidence procedure, it's just like running on a treadmill. You keep running and you don't know when to stop. Okay, so that's the evidence procedure. Number 8 is compelling. If the goal is not compelling, you will not move towards your goal. So in this stage, describe the outcome and the process in a language that you find compelling. You are able to story yourself about that goal. What is the narrative that you are using about that goal that cause you to have that passion, that it is so compelling, it is so desirable. Do the actual words and language of your goal excite the passion within you? And this is also one of the reasons why many people don't achieve their goal, is that they borrow other people's goals. Because people say, oh, for the new year, I want to lose weight. So they, okay, I want to lose weight. But that goal is not compelling to them. And that's why they don't go or don't move towards their goal. So checking whether that goal is compelling or not is critical. So that's why in the meta coaching practice, the way that we run our session, those of you who've attended meta coaching, when we start off the conversation with the client, what is it that you want, how you are going to achieve it, and typically we test this part first before we go in depth. Test this part of compellingness by running up the ladder of intention, asking the question of why is this important to you? Because running up the ladder of importance create that compellingness for the goal for the client, and that's what's going to give them the energy to pursue the goal. Okay, and number 9 is ecologically balanced. That the goal must be ecologically balanced in the sense that when you achieve what it is that you go for, that value that you are getting is not causing hurt or harm to other areas of your life or to people around you. That is what we are referring to as ecologically balanced. To describe your outcome in a way that you recognize as balanced and ecological for all contexts and relationships in your life. Is the goal realistic? Things like you want to make $1 million before the end of the year, and in order to get that $1 million before the end of the year, you list out your plan and you have to do so many things to the extent that you even in your in the way that you schedule, you say that you only have time for 4 hours of sleep a night. So checking on that ecologically balance, is that an ecological goal? Because by going for that financial goal, you are going to hurt your not just physical health, mental and emotional health as well. So that is not ecologically balanced. Okay, so that's criteria number 9. And the 10th criteria is that it has to be forecasted in time. To locate the goal on your timeline so that the action steps and pathway fits into your sense of the future. So you slot the goal into your timeline, and because of that, with the timeline, what happens is that now you can break down into the small step that you need to take, and then by slotting into a timeline, now you can determine the intensity of the action that you need to take. Without slotting it on the timeline, you don't know the intensity. So it's just, I typically give the example of you boiling water on the stove, right? If you have enough heat, the water will boil. But however, if the heat is too low, you leave it there for 24 hours, the water will not boil. Okay, so forecasting it in time will inform you of the intensity that you need to perform in order to achieve the goal. So those are the 10 criteria for the structure of a well-formed outcome: positively stated, empirical, specific steps, action steps, person-centered, resources, evidence, procedure, compelling, ecologically balanced, and forecasted in time. Okay, so I'm going to pause here to open up for questions. Yes, so I'm now reading the chat over here. Bella, I hope that the 10 points that I have shared just now answers this question, because these are the 10 criteria that we use in order to determine whether a goal is well formed or not. So this is where we work with the client. So starting off at a very vague space. So Roy was mentioning the clarity conversation earlier. So starting off at a very vague space, creating that clarity, moving down into, so what is it that you want? Why is this important to you? When do you want to achieve it? Who are the people around you that you are going to achieve this goal? And then moving down that funnel, going into, so what are the steps that you need to take? What goes first? What goes next? And then asking whether it is compelling. So as you move down the well-formed outcome, so that's when you satisfy all of the 10 criteria, that's when you have a well-formed goal, well-formed outcome. Okay. So, any other questions or comments?
Marzuki,
yes.
Can I? You know, of all the 10 items, I think the compelling one, how do you, know that it's very compelling for that person to achieve that goal?
Yeah. Very relevant question, Dr. Anwar. That is why when I typically check that compellingness in the beginning of the conversation, even though it is listed as number 8 there. Typically, I cover that by the 3rd step. So starting with the client, so what's the best thing, best use of our time in this conversation today? What is it that you want to achieve from this conversation? So that goes on with the what that you want. And then getting the client to describe, okay, this is what I want. This is how I'm going to experience it. And then before I go into the details of specific action steps and all that, I test it by asking, so you want to achieve this, right? So why is this important to you? This is the meta question of importance. Why is this important to you? If I can draw your attention to the intentionality pattern. So what we are doing is we are running it up their intention ladder. going up higher and higher the levels of intention. So by asking, why is this important to you? They'll give that first value. And why is this important to you? So going up that ladder until they hit the ceiling, because that will show to them the purpose, the higher intention and purpose of that particular goal. So if what they want to achieve, if something really compelling, then they have, as they go up that ladder, it will be congruent. Their answers to why they want that will be congruent, and that creates that energy, that compellingness, that passion. And why I say it is a test over here, because sometimes they set out a goal over here. This is what I want. And the moment I test, and why is this important to you? And they give me one answer. And why is this important to you? And they give me another answer. By the time sometimes it gets a third or fourth answer, they realize, actually, this one, the fourth answer, is what I really want, not that one. So this is where the client realizes, okay, the goal that I set out to achieve is not that important to me. Something else is more important to me. So as a coach, I'll restart, Control Alt Delete the conversation. Okay, so now this is the most important thing to you. So so when you achieve this, what are you going to experience it, and why is this? So now I'm going up that ladder again. So by doing that, they are able to link the outcome with the highest intention. The moment they are able to link that, that creates that compellingness in a goal.
Mazuki.
Yes, go ahead, Ines.
Yeah, can I just add something else to Cairo, Anwar? maybe this can help. After you do everything Mazuki said, you can ask this. This is my suggestion. You can ask the client from 0 to 10, how much is this compelling to you? Because maybe the person doesn't know the intensity. So if you ask the person, if it's not that compelling, maybe thinking of this, it's like 4 or 5. Oh no, thinking of this, it's like 9.5. You know, so this is is another question that could be used for you to know, and for the client to also, to how compelling it is for the client.
Thank you, Ines.
Thank you, Ines. And when Ines was mentioning that, so as a coach, sometimes you need to play the devil's advocate. Sometimes, if you ask the question, so on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, how compelling is it for you? And the client says 4, then you can challenge the client. 4. So if it is only at level 4, why do you need a coach to get that? Why do you need me? If it is not something that is so compelling to you. Because if thank you, Ines, for mentioning that. If they themselves admit that it is so low on the scale of compellingness, then that's not a worthwhile pursuit for them, because they are going to drop out along the way. So you want them to have a goal that is so compelling. And this is where, as a coach, when you have the skill of sensory acuity, you ask the question, so how compelling is this for you? For somebody whose goal is the compellingness is at the scale of about 8 or 9 or even 10, you can notice that change in state the moment you ask the question, how badly do you want this? You can notice that change in state. And for some people, it can even create very strong emotions. Ines, have you had that experience? You're asking a client, you can notice that the emotion coming in?
Yes, yes. And because there's a person who wants to, for example, study to be a doctor, medicine. But he is 48 and he has a comfort life. He wants to do that, he wants to study, but also he can't. He doesn't study to the first exams. So he came in with the question, well, I think we should talk about if this is really what I want. So after talking, and then, well, he changed his state. And no, yes, I want, this is what I want. So you notice the voice, the attitude, and then I like to scale. How much do you want now? You were in doubt. How much is your doubt now? Or, you know, so this helps to engage, to motivate. Yeah, I have this experience, Mazuki.
Thank you, Ines.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions that you have or comments? Yes, Dr. Shakir, you mentioned about smart questions. Would you like to explain that a little bit?
Okay, thank you. Because if this one you really need practice, once you practice, it becomes easier for you to do. Because this smart question, it's not, we say, directly putting to the client to give you the answer. So we have to listen to the utterances given by the client. For example, when he says something that is very wide, right, it's quite difficult. We have to reduce down the levels of objective, the set of goal you want to achieve this within the achievable level. Sometimes they just simply put up the objective, but they do not know whether it is workable, achievable or not. If you're not smart, smart means the question is specific. Second, measurable. Third, achievable, retrievable, and timely. So this area, we have to look as given by the Mazuki just now, because when we understand the current state, we know the resource and the desired state. So all the set of goals that are being set, we make sure that it is achievable. I give example, one person say, I want to be the best of that. But when you compare where he is now with the set of goals you want to achieve, it's not in sync. It's not really favorable to him. So we have to ask him another way so that he can reduce down the size of the objective, become more achievable. So I put it in general first. I give example, for example, when people write thesis, right, or write any story, of course, there are certain things, there is some limitation to that. So the coach is not going to look at the limitation of the client. The coach will look at the strength of the client. So here the meaning means to say the coach is talking within the meaning making and the sense makings of the client. So that is one way. And number two, when we say it is achievable, our achievable, the coach achievable and the client achievable is not the same. But in the coaching session, the client achievable is 100% correct. So we have to use their capability, not our capability, because all our objective, our desire during the coaching is being suspended. So we have to be listening to the client, okay, understand where you want to go, asking the question that within his meaning making. So when we do that, that means the question that we ask will somehow rather a well-formed goal. So him, at the end of the day, he might feel happy and excited because he can see the goal. Because remember the question that being said by Cik Mazuki just now, given what does it look like? This question is very popular. When the person can describe that, means he has a certain size of achievement. Same thing like hypnotherapy, same like therapy, even counseling, they use this question. How does it look like? Or secondly, they say, When you achieve it, what will be the difference to you? You see now, that is a kind of measurement already. How do you know you achieve it? That is also a measurement. And then the lastly, how do you know that you will achieve it, when you achieve it, and how all these things is already the ability to find the answer within the person. So in short, I will say that the strongest objective or strongest motivation of everything is not what you think we say. The bigger objectives will be a goal. So that's why there's the goal that you set up for big organization. They say must be what call it massive, transformative purpose. So it must be really, really strong because that goal is the biggest motivator. They become the biggest generator for you to take up the action. I hope you can follow it. That's what I can give in the short.
Right.
Is it okay?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shakir. Yeah, so this well-formed outcome, the structure of the well-formed outcome conversation is both applicable for an organization or for an individual. So you can use it for either situations. Okay, and for example, when we had that, what do we call that, Dr. Anwar? A couple of years ago, Rotary, we had
annual planning.
Yes, the annual planning. So I facilitated that discussion. So I brought in the SCORE model and bringing in the structure of the well-formed outcome into the whole facilitation process in order for you to achieve what it is that you want for that particular year. So it applies for an individual and also for an organization. Okay. So the thing about the well-formed outcome pattern is that as a coach, we want to be able to embrace the process. So that's why in the meta coaching discipline, we work along the funnel that is created from the well-formed outcome pattern. So we create a funnel and we just go through that process, because once we have all of the 10 criteria met, then we know for sure that the client now has a well-formed outcome. So how do we begin the process of co-creating with a client an outcome that's designed with all of these 10 qualities? We first cause the distance and the difference between the current circumstances and state and the desired outcome state. Gauging the difference invite us to begin asking the central questions about our desired destiny. So let the client see what's the distance, because the distance between where they are now and where they want to be, the bigger the distance, the greater the energy that is required to fulfill that, and therefore it requires greater passion in order to achieve that. The well-formed outcome pattern gives us a clear way to think more about moving away from the aversions that now exist. So what it is that you have over here, what is it that you don't want, what I did not show in the current state. We look at the problems and the causes, because identifying the problems and causes cause us to feel this aversion that this is not what I want. So that now I can begin moving towards the outcome. The questions of this pattern allow us to elicit and coach a client to customize the key components of a well-designed strategy and action plan. Doing this enables a client to construct a roadmap for moving to that desired state. Remember, I mentioned to you, if it is a complex goal, then they might need even to turn it into a full project management mode in order to achieve that. So that would be the roadmap that they need to have. The questions in the well-formed outcome also elicit many of the resource states that will help facilitate the actualizing of the goal. We talk about resource states because when you have long-term goals, there are many, not just steps, there are multiple stages, and as you go through the stages, each of the stages may demand different states in order for you to be able to implement those stages. So having this well-formed outcome pattern come in allows you to identify those. This pattern not only hands the responsibility of achieving outcomes over to the client, it also facilitates the ownership of the process. It is about empowerment. We want to get the client to be powered to achieve their goal. So they want to have full responsibility and ownership of the process. So in the coaching context, this pattern also becomes valuable as a reference tool for measuring the progress of the coaching relationship intermittently and at the completion of the coaching. We are not only measuring what they have achieved, we are also measuring the steps, the action that they are taking. Because sometimes you can only measure the end outcome over a longer period of time. So you need to also measure the steps. By measuring the steps, it gives a sense of achievement to the client. Even though I've not achieved this goal yet, I have done this, I have done this, I have done this. So that is it is a useful part of the cheerleading that the coach needs to bring. And this pattern allows us to do several important things in coaching. One, we facilitate a greater sense of responsibility and ownership within a client for his or her own plans and life. The second one is we set up milestones for measuring and confirming progress and success. The third one is we set up a directional frame for coaching. So we set up a process that gives us and the client a leverage for change. So the structure of the well-formed outcome, when we embrace the process, working through all the 10 qualities or criteria, allows us to bring the client towards the goal with open eyes, and they are fully in charge, they are fully in control. So as a coach, we want to be able to embrace the process, to trust the process, because by having this kind of clarity, that gives the client the better chance of achieving their goal. Okay, so I'll just pause there. Any questions or comments that you would like to ask? So that's basically what I would just like to bring to our discussion for this evening. We started off with some introduction to we started off with a theoretical framework, and we looked at the outcome questions, and then we looked at the 10 items in the structure of the well-formed outcome, and then just now I mentioned to you about the process, to embrace the process as we bring the client towards the goal. So any questions or comments that you may have?
Yes. Just an insight. I think for myself, I have to embody this pattern for the whole process with the client also, because it seems okay. Here in this first section, we found out what you really want, and if the person is motivated and everything else. But during the next first session after this one, so I have to use this pattern again, and in the other session again. And sometimes all these questions are going to be repeated in different situations of the conversations, right?
Yes.
So yes, so I think this is something that I didn't have, or I don't have. I'm not. How can I say? the mastery to do that. Sometimes I forget, because I don't see the moment. So what comes to my mind is that this is for all moments that we need more specification or motivation. I don't know, something the person has to have clarity maybe in an action. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know if I'm clear because my English is not that good as you. So sometimes my words are not fitting to what I think. But this is process, right? Yes. So maybe this will be inserted in other processes to make it clear for the client, for our coaching process. Is this okay to think about that?
Yeah, what I would say is first is to, in as much as we have this process whereby we start off at the very top, if you can visualize the funnel, you remember the funnel? Yeah. Every coaching conversation, we start at the very top, we go down to reach the KPI at the bottom. So when I mentioned to every coaching conversation, the first conversation is we identify the big picture. That conversation is a well-formed outcome conversation. So the subsequent conversations, they take elements from the big picture and we have conversations on those. So those also go down the funnel. Now, the thing about the human mind is that we need to realize that human logic is not linear. It is spiraling. So that's why having, I would say, familiarity with the well-formed outcome criteria gives you the flexibility to loop. The reason why I say loop is that sometimes you bring the client to a certain level, their mind goes in a different direction. So as we follow the client's energy, knowing that okay, now the client needs a different kind of conversation, to be able to hold that, to be able to follow that energy, and once that is handled, then to be able to bring it down to reach the KPI. Because yeah, the thing is that we are non-linear. So the non-linear way of thinking is how we follow the energy of the client. When we have the structure in mind, it doesn't matter if the client loops up and down the criteria. So we just follow that, knowing that in order to get the well-formed outcome, they need to fulfill the criteria. We don't need to go in 1, 2, 3, 4. They may jump at number from 8. They may jump back at 2, and that's okay. It's just to be able to hold that structure in place. Because when we hold that structure in place, it gives them that better clarity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Sure. And I think you brought another distinction that I was mixturing, is the kind of conversation.
Yeah.
So, okay, I brought now this to my structure here. Okay. Thank you, Mazuki.
Thank you. Roy, would you like to add something? You are currently muted, Roy. We can't hear you.
Yeah, so I'm just going to echo what Mazuki you have just shared about having a structure that keeps us in sort of in a very systematic way, but don't use that as a hard and fast rule, right? So because a conversation is emotional, a conversation is to be engaged, to be present. And so part of it is to also flow with the client. But as a meta coach, one of the things that we have is a system. So we want to fall back on that system just in case we don't know what to ask, we don't know where the conversation is heading. So that's sort of like what Marzuki said, holds everything together. But it's okay that if we cannot complete all 18 well-formed out questions, it's okay that we jump from 1 to 3 to 5 to 7 to 8. As long as we have that at the back of our minds, then I think it keeps us, as a meta coach, a more systematic, gives us a more structured approach in helping the client gain clarity.
Thank you, Ryan, for that contribution. Appreciate that very much. Yes, anyone else have got any comments? If no comments, I'll just summarize the.
I got something, Marzuki.
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Shakir.
I listened to the conversation in the class and the point that you raised. That's why sometimes we say the mind cannot see, the eyes cannot see what the mind doesn't understand. So it goes down to the individual level of understanding, the individual capability of meaning making, what being said. So that means to say the coach himself might be reach a certain level of coaching capability. Because when you become well-formed, we say in terms of well-formed outcome, that means the well-formed outcome to a different person might be differently, right? Even to a different coach, it means differently. But the question is, the client is important. As earlier stage, after we are completing the co-creating, and then we go to the outcome. That's why outcome play very important journey. Because if I'm not mistaken, given according to Michael Hall, because if we understand the inner feelings, inner side of the person, and then bring it to the outer side of the person, it is another way of helping the person to understand where he stands. I mean, at what states of his, we are talking about his difficulty to overcome certain things. I do not know how you come up, how can you elaborate that, Marzuki, so that helping us to understand, because you coach different person with the same problem, but they achieve different answer according to the person capability, the person developmental stage. So one issue, same issue, but different solution. So well-formed outcome also depend on the individual capability. What is being given by Michael, this is one of the best way also to help others to really looking inwardly and look outwardly. So that's how I come to my mind, just to, if there is anything that you can bring up from there.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Shakir. Roy?
Yeah, so like what Dr. Shakir mentioned, I think the system of the well-formed outcome question is applicable to all clients.
Yes.
They may share the same problem,
yes,
but their circle of power is different. Right? So the role of the coach is not to give a solution, is not to impose, is not to imply, not to suggest, not to advise. Though maybe we have some past experience with some clients who may have the same solution to the same problem. But because that individual has a different circle of power, we work within the circle of power of the client. So if the client can go up to 50 meters, we follow the client up to 50 meters and we help them create breakthrough to 60, 70, 80, and ultimately 100. So I think as a coach, our concern is not whether we can solve the problem, because our role is not to solve the problem. But our role is to help, like you said, right? So to help the client reach within, to empower themselves to create breakthrough to the limits that they can, not to what we can, not to what others can. So if their limit is the half of the other client, or the limit is double of the other client, so what we want to do is to expose that potential inward, that reflects outward, that gets them baby steps to their goals. We may not solve the problem immediately, but we want to get them to work and expand their circle of power. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. So as a coach, so our concern is not to solve the problem, because we don't have the answers to everything. But we use the process of the well-formed outcome to, I think, in other words, to expand that circle of power, to explore their different areas of their matrices and find patterns that they're helping them, break patterns that are not helping them, and just be more resourceful. So to the limit that they can. And if we find their limit is challengeable, then we as a coach will challenge that limit. Hey, hang on, you're running at 50. Can you go 55? What would it take you to go to 55? Is there an obstacle that's holding you back from 55? So then I think that challenge helps them expand that circle of power.
Yeah, that's the reason we have to listen.
Correct.
The
Yes.
ability to listen to the client.
Correct.
So that it goes according to his level. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So what we do is we sort of know the shape of the car, but we don't know where the car is heading to. We don't know how they want to turn, how much acceleration they want to step on it. But we know, so we are sort of like an environment.
Yeah, sometimes the client might cry. Sometimes they smile. But you ask them what it meant to you. It's meant differently. Sometimes he cries, he's happy. Sometimes he's happy. He told me he's very sad. So that's how they behave accordingly. That's why if we understand human beings, we appreciate them. We listen first to understand. Secondly, we ask clarification question. Thirdly, we appreciate. And then we ask question. That's where you keep everything in the tense at the moment. So it's very helpful.
Cool. Thanks, Dr. Shakir.
Thank you.
Maybe I would like to add something here.
Yes, Ashim.
When Marzuki pointed out the current state and the desired states, that strikes me some years back. I was sitting in a conversation between the coach and the client, a potential client. So I was sitting there and listening and trying to understand how a coach deliver his so-called presentation. So the point was, when the thing didn't get through, I asked the client what went wrong privately. So he said to me, Hashim, very simple. The consultant doesn't know what he is leading me into. Meaning to say, the outcome that he wanted to bring for the client was not clear because the questions that on that question of the outcome question does not come into the picture. So that was the feedback from the client that says, oh, this consultant doesn't know the subject. So that was the feedback from the client. So the point is, the context of the conversation has to clearly cover the current state and the desired state, plus importantly, the resources. Yeah. So I learned that something like 4.5 years back when I was sitting in and listening to this coach. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Hashim. So the well-formed outcome pattern is a structure that we use in the conversation to create clarity for the client to achieve the outcome. At the same time, the content is being filled in by the client. So as a coach, we are just holding that space, allowing them to move through that structure, because as they go through that structure, that creates the well-formed outcome for them. Whatever content, that's entirely up to them. That is what Dr. Shakir was mentioning just now. It is not for the coach to tell. The moment you tell, you are not coaching anymore. You are, I don't know, teaching or dictatoring. Is that the word, dictatoring? So you are facilitating the client's resources, strengths, potential in that structure to get at the outcome that is relevant and appropriate for them. Yeah, so it is not for us to bring them, to lead them to a certain outcome. It is for us to bring them through that process. So that's why I mentioned to you about embracing the process, to allow the client to experience that process, because they will fill in the content of what they want to achieve. Yeah. So that's the well-formed outcome conversation that we bring, that gives the client the word that I would say is that a specific outcome that is achievable for them to go towards, and that is compelling enough for them to go for. Okay, so that's basically at the core of the well-formed conversation, the outcome conversation. All together, Michael puts in about there are another 12 more. We have the resource conversation, we have the matrix conversation, the possibility conversation, the fears conversations. Those are all other conversations that we will be bringing to the clients. However, we start off with the outcome conversation because that will define the direction for our coaching with the client. Okay, so that's basically what I have for this evening. What I would just do is just to summarize a little bit of what we've covered. One is that typically outcome conversations are the first conversation in coaching, as well as an ongoing conversation that makes the coaching immensely practical, pragmatic, strategic, and performance focused. Otherwise, it becomes nice to have conversation which is fluffy, doesn't bring to an outcome. Outcome conversations focus first and foremost on the outer games the client wants to play. What do you want to do, experience, achieve, have, or be, which is vitally important to you? So to define the outer game. Yet a full conversation about outcome isn't complete without moving into the inner game of our frames of mind that support and empower the outer game. That's why we ask about intentions, motivations, and agendas. Why do you want that outcome? Why is that important to you? What will that do for you? How is that significant? So starting with the outer game, because that's what they can see, hear, feel immediately, and moving into the inner game to allow them to create the structures that will support their actions in order to achieve the outcome. So that's basically what I will summarize on what we've been discussing this evening, and for Ines this morning. Where's Homulo? Is he having his breakfast right now?
Yes, yes, Masuki. And not on my side anymore.
Okay, before we end, I'd just like to invite each and every one of you, if you have any comments that you would like to make before we end. So I'll start off with the top right-hand corner of my screen. Guaching, is there anything that you'd like to say?
Thank you, Masuki, and so thank you to Dr. Shake and the rest for sharing the good points, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Guaching. Dr. Anwar, you're next.
Thank you, Masuki. It's a good revision, and also recall and clarify some of the points that you covered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Anwar. How about you, Mark?
Hi, Mr. Masuki. Thank you again. I think it's a good refresher. I think sometimes over time we tend to forget the steps and what the purpose is. So yeah, thank you again for a good session tonight. Can't wait to practice it.
Thank you, Mark. And Roy?
Well, yeah, once again, thank you everyone for, I think, participating. I think energy is important. Good to see more people in the community. We are hoping to get more meta coaches to be more active so that we have more lab rats to practice with. So I need some practice, people to be my coaches. Because I believe that meta coaching is an art, and as an art, it's constant practice and deliberate practice and learning at the same time, right? So thank you everyone for this evening. Good stuff. Thanks, Masuki.
Thank you. Right. And Isaac from the beautiful island of Langkawi.
Thank you, Masuki, for the excellent sharing, and everyone who participating. Hopefully that we could meet again, e-meet for the next session.
Thank you. Thank you, Isaac. And Hashim?
Thank you, Marzuki, for the excellent mental checklist for the questions that coach need to bring the client into that clarity kind of model. And yeah, I learned a lot tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Hashim. And Bill, how about you?
I think it's wonderful, and thank you, Marzuki, for organizing such a nice section, and thank you everyone for sharing. I have learned a lot from different stories, and it's a real practical example there, and then something to process on what is actually is going on, with the model. Yes, I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Bill. And Dr. Shakir?
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. And the more we learn, the more we need to know. The more we learn, there are so many things that we do not know. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shakir. And Izani?
Oh, thank you. No question. It's good sharing tonight. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Izani. And how about you, Ines?
Hi, for me, this section was like another resource for my continuous learning and learning with different people from different places, people that maybe think differently. So for me, it's very, very valuable. Thank you so much for the opportunity for me to be here. And I wish to be able to participate in others. Although in the morning I have to take care of my grandson, so sometimes it makes difficult, but I would love to be with you again.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate your joining us all the way from Brazil. And Sue, is there anything that you'd like to say before we end? You are currently muted, Sue.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was on. Well, it was a very informative session, so thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you, Sue. And last but not least, Bella.
Thanks for sharing from everyone. And then thank you very much for Dr. Marzuki for today's session. I really appreciate for that.
Thank you, Bella. And with that, everyone, I would like to again say that I really appreciate your being here. I look forward to seeing you again. Next week, we shift gears. We are moving into the topic of parenting. So if anyone is interested to join that session, it's entitled Principle-Centered Parenting. So that will be next week. Again, the first week and the first Thursday of the month is on neurosemantics in general. Second Thursday of the month, we go into relationships. Third Thursday, this one is on meta coaching, and the fourth Thursday is on leadership. So with that, I really appreciate your being here. I look forward to seeing you again. So stay safe, everyone. Hope to see you again. Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good
night.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good night for you.
Thank you. But did Romulo go back to sleep or he's gone already?
Okay. All right. Marzuki, I received the accounts yesterday. I will look at it tonight and then I will.
Okay, let me know, because I would like to send it say tomorrow. Let people are able to see it first before we have our AGM.
Okay. Ramai datang. Is there a lot of people
I don't know.
so far?
I don't know. I have no idea yet. I need to check. Yeah.
I am not sure whether I registered or not. I hope I registered.
Okay.
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 Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's why we should have asked Isaac, right? Here from Resorts World.
Yes.
Can get the pricing for the hotels for NSTT dengan. Gotta check with you next time.
Yeah. What? Yeah, we can check. But Langkawi lah. It takes another.
I mean, the Resort World is Genting Group, right? So they might have in body KL.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because the nanti I check dekat website. see whether they have anything in PD or even KL area.
Okay. So you'll follow up with him?
I don't have his contact number.
Oh, okay,
Hopefully
okay. I'll do
see
that.
him again.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Waalaikumsalam.